Here we are at Quest 4's objective review. We're going to go through it from the very beginning all the way to the end, putting something on the server. Now, there's been a lot of question up to this point of how do I get this to the server? How do I make a directory? How do I link here to there? Do you really want this or that? Well, there's a lot of great information on linking and directory structure in Chapter 6 of your book, starting on page 105. I suggest reading that if you're having any trouble with directory structure. Very good information right there. Well, I'm going to go through some of the practice that they go through in those particular lessons, and we're going to do that right here and now. One thing I want you to take note of is look at my desktop. Clean as a whistle. I see a lot of crap accumulating on a few of your desktops over there, and to be honest, I can't even sift through that. It's really going to be tough on you if you don't understand what you have going. We're going to have the index file poking around in all these different directories, so if you don't have this organization, this structure down from the very get-go, you're going to have a really, really bad time for the rest of the semester. Get organized. Clean that stuff up. If you don't know what it is for now, just make a folder called Various and shove all that stuff in there, and I'm going to start from a very clean desktop. All right. Enough of me getting on my soapbox about having clean directories. This is just going to help you. Same thing when you open files and folders. When you open something and you don't need it and you're actively doing some design, close it out. You can just open it up again when you need it. That way, only what you need is open on the desktop. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing that I wanted you to do is create a website directory structure. So it's the very first thing every time that I want you to do an assignment. That's right, I need you to go make a folder. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to put in a new folder. So for this one, I'm just going to click it and I'm going to rename this one to root folder. Okay, that's just going to be a description so you understand what's going on. Now this root folder is going to stick on my desktop. I'm never going to transfer this root folder to the actual server. It's just the holding place for everything that I'm about to do in this particular directory. So I'm going to move this over to the side for just a second, and we're going to open up a particular file that I've given you via email. So if you go to your emails, you'll be able to find this template and utilize it for various lessons in the semester. From this point forward, I've created it as an open source kind of idea here that you can go in and look at what a typical valid HTML5 document would look like. You'll see it if you go online and you'll go into your particular emails that I sent you, and you'll find this template URL at the bottom. You can take a look at what that template looks like right there. This is just a boilerplate kind of framework that I decided to come up with you guys. I worked on it over the last week. It has some basic navigation. It has an image that's embedded. You have some basic semantic markup so you can see what that looks like. I also floated over this little aside box. So these are the things that you're going to see in a typical website. How you're going to utilize this particular page is you're going to actually take out this content that you see here and you're going to be able to put in your own. You're going to tweak CSS values. You're going to make this your own thing. But I've built the framework for you. It's here. You can use it. It exists. So let me show you what is in this particular folder. So if you went to the template URL, you're just previewing it live online. What you want to do is download the zip. So you click on this button here, it's going to give you the ability to download a zip folder. So right off the bat, what you can do is just save that. Now, if you have it auto go to your downloads folder, you're going to have to go pick up the zip from your downloads folder. In this particular instance, I'm just going to save my zip right on the desktop. So that's as easy as it is. Going to your email, downloading a particular zip file that I have linked for you. Now you'll notice that right above it in your email, I'm going to just flash it really quick, you have a little bit of your information in regard to your FTP. Use that information. You'll see it a little bit later on this tutorial, how to get into that FTP, and you're going to need that information. So I sent it to you. You have it in this email. Bookmark it, save it, do something with this email. You'll know that it's there for you when you need it in the future. Okay, so let's jump in here and let's start working on getting this template in a local format so we can make some edits on it. Okay, so I'm going to close that up. That's the version that's sitting out on the web. Now here I am on my desktop again, two folders. The one I created earlier that has nothing in it, that root folder, open that guy up, put that over to the side here. We're going to put some files right in there. And now we have this zip file that's just sitting right there. What's great about this zip file is this is my template. If I double click it, it's going to spit me out a folder. There we go. I got a folder. And what's in the folder? Let's take a look. All right. We got a few files right in the folder. You got an index file, like you always should have in one of your the root template folders. We have some CSS files that are linked to. You also have a blank page folder. And then you do have an images directory here that will hold on to some of your images. Okay, So this is the basic structure you need for a website. Let's take a peek in this index file, see what it's going on here, okay? So I'm just going to right click onto it, and I'm going to go to open in files, open in Text Wrangler, sorry. And so once we're in Text Wrangler, let me go ahead and close that one up right here, and I'm going to adjust my view because I do not want to see this, so I'm going to put hide files. That way I have a little bit more real estate to look at just my particular markup. Okay, so it looks a little scary. There's a lot of different markup all the way in here, but when we really start breaking it down, looking at what's nested in what, you'll see that we have our head tag up at the top here. Within the head tag, we have a few things. I did make it so it's backwards compatible since we're working with HTML5 in later versions of IE. So that's what this code is about. You actually don't need this information if you really didn't care if it worked in IE or older browsers. You'll also notice that at the top there are two style sheets that's linked into. There's nothing currently in the responsive sheet. We really haven't made this framework responsive, but you will have a style sheet that is going to hold some structure that you've seen on that front end. So right away, you'll be able to go through this structure and see all the various things that are in there. So you got that header that's in there, you got some of that navigation, and so on down the line. Now, this is just a template, and if you remember, we just spit out a version of it right here into this folder. So what we can do is we can use these files as a base for what we're going to create in our Quest for objective. So the easiest way to do that is go ahead and select the folders that we're going to copy. So I'll go shift and get to the end of there. I'm going to right click and I'm going to hit copy 4 items. I'm going to jump right back into that root folder. I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste those 4 items. The one I didn't take is the blank page because I really don't need that at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use these folders for the remainder of this particular lesson. So I'm going to close out of here. I'm going to go ahead and trash that particular thing in the bin. And now what we have in our root folder is a basic website. So if we were to hit that root folder, it'd open in this index file, and then you're going to be able to see this pop up on your screen. So now we know we're locally. The way I know we're locally, I'm looking in the address bar, and I see the file and the slashes saying it's pulling it up locally from this computer, and we're browsing on it. So the very first thing that I could do is I could right click on this index file, open it in the Text Wrangler there, and then I can make some edits. So since I wanted to start from scratch with this one, I can take everything out from in between the body tags. And then everything else is going to be set up for me. So I'll hit delete, and now I can start putting in some of my content. So the very first thing that I'm going to put in here is I'm going to put a P tag. Actually, let's put an H1 tag. So I'll put H1, and I will say this is my root directory, let's say, my root folder. So just so I know that this particular area is where all my root is going to happen. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up putting a few links in this root directory. So a great way to put links is using some unordered lists. So I'm going to put a UL in there, and I'll go ahead and close that UL up. And UL stands for unordered list. So I'll hit that entered down a few times, and I'm going to nest an LI tag, which means link item. So, sorry, list item. And we might want to put a couple in there. I'm just going to do 3 particular links today. So we won't go all the way to the 10 like this particular lesson calls for, but you'll get the point because we'll only have to do this a few times. So it's doing a few little funny things with spacing here. Go ahead and fix all that up. Okay, so we got our list items. We got this particular thing set up. And maybe the only other thing is we want to put an A tag in here with an href, and I will open up my quotations. I will close up my little link in here, so I could call this a link. I'm going to put a placeholder $. So really what I have here is a list item with a link right in the middle here. What we're going to do is we're going to change these links in just a minute here to link to these various folders we're about to create. So since I already put these links in here, I wanted to set up that initial home page. So I'll go ahead and hit save there and close out. And I'm going to test this out in the browser, see what we got. There we go, root folder, 3 links. Everything's set up in that root directory. This template on our local drive now does not have all that bells and whistles that you saw when we downloaded it initially. It would still be in this zip file, but now we've kind of cleared all that information out and we can start from scratch. So we already have a root directory created. The only other folder I really asked you to put in here was coursework. So I'll put coursework in there and I'll type it up, another directory. Pretty easy to get that in there. Now let's start developing coursework out a little bit. In the coursework folder, I want you to have a quest 1 through 10. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to go into coursework, and just to make this a little bit more visually appealing, I'm going to change the view mode. I'm going to click over to this mode, and that's going to let me go into that coursework folder. You'll see that there's nothing in there. I'm going to right click, put a new folder, and I'm going to call this folder Q1. Easy enough, right? It's just a blank directory. So now if I go back to that other view mode, you're going to notice that I can go back and, oh, I've got to change it on this one. You'll see that there's a coursework folder, and in that coursework folder is a Q1 with nothing in it. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to copy all the files that make a valid HTML web page. And particularly in this case, we want to use that template. So again, I'm going to go ahead and just copy all those files that I already had, and I'm going to right click on them, and I'm going to go ahead and I am going to copy those 4 items, and then I'm going to go right to that Q1 folder. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to paste those 4 items. So now what I've done is I've just copied something that I already had into that Q1 folder. All right, switch my viewport again, go into my coursework folder. There's my Q1 folder. In the Q1 folder, I have a mini website. All right, let's get this all tuned up so I can just duplicate it a few times and we'll be nearly done with the lesson. So I can right click on the index file now in this Q1 folder, open it with the Wrangler, and you're going to notice it has all the older information. This time though, since I'm in the Quest 1 folder, I'm going to go ahead and change this to Quest 1. Now what I can do with these links is, I want to link back to that home file or that index file. So right now, if you look at that directory structure that we have here, I'm going to back up a few folders here. I'm going to look at this from this viewpoint. We have this index file, and I want it to link to this index file. What we need to do is we need to say, go back to the folder directory Q1, go back to the folder directory coursework, and then link to index HTML. Okay, that's easy enough. There's a quick way we can do that. I'm going to go jump back into Text Wrangler. Well, the first thing is, to back up a folder, in our href, we have to put period, period, slash. That's going to get us 1 folder back. Period, period, slash will get us 2 folders back. So if we're looking at our directory structure right here, we're saying we need to go back 1 folder, we need to go back 2 folders, and now we're in this root directory. Now we can talk to this index HTML. So what we want to put in there is, just to make sure we can get to that file, we'll put in index.html. All right, so you're going to really want to look at that because we're going to keep this as a kind of a theme. So when we do this in the future, we're able to back up folders. This is the first time I've really introduced the // kind of concept. You are going to see it in the future. I wanted to set this up in this initial file. So you understand we're in Quest 1, and now we have a link that's going to allow us to link right back to that root folder that we have set up. And you'll see how this works in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and hit File and Save. Okay, I'm going to close right out of my Text Wrangler. You're going to notice what I'm doing is I'm closing everything all the time. I'm closing it all the way down, and I only work on it when I need it. So it's going to keep me organized. It's going to make sure I know what I'm working on as I work on it. All right, so we have a Q1 folder. We've already kind of tuned it up in the way that we need it to link back to that index file. What we need to do now is just copy it a few more times and then create our relative links back to these Q folders in this index file. So what we need to do now is take this Q file, and we can go ahead and copy that file. So I'm going to copy Q1, and then right into coursework file, I'm going to paste that item. So I pasted the Q1 copy, so I'll go ahead and click that once. I'm going to call this one Q2. And then since it's already in my copy memory, I can right click again, and I can paste item once again, and now I have my 3 particular folders that I wanted to work on in this particular lesson. Now you want to bring it all the way out to 10, but you got the point. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to this other viewpoint so you can really see what's going on here. So I'm going in my coursework folder, and I have 3 quests, 1, 2, and 3. Now we've already set up Quest 1. We're going to go into Quest 2, our little mini website, right click, and I'm going to open with Text Wrangler. Now you'll notice that there's that Quest 1 there, so I'm going to turn this one into Quest 2, File, Save, Close. Now I'm going to back out. Now I'm going to go to the Quest 3 folder, go in to their index file, right click it, and I'm going to go ahead and open that one file, text editor, and I'm going to change that Quest 1 to Quest 3 because we just duplicated that a few times. File, Save. Okay, we have basically 3 default little templates that we've set up. They're the exact same kind of files in each of these folders. The only difference is that they're named Quest 1, 2, and 3. Okay, how do we link to the index files in each of these folders? We want to link to them. That's the last step in this particular objective. So I'm going to go all the way back to that root directory in that root folder. I'm going to close it out just to really illustrate this. Here's the root folder. I'm going to go in there, and in that root folder we have an index file and our 2 CSS, and then there's that big coursework file. All right, so for this one, I am going to go change back to this kind of looking directory viewpoint so that we can look around at these Q1 directories and see how we're going to link out to them. So we have an index file. It's sitting next to a coursework folder. It's in that coursework folder is a Q1 folder, and in that folder is our index.html we want to link to. So what we need to do to generate a link is go into our index file, open it in Text Wrangler, and we're going to start setting up our links. So we're going to go and change this one to Quest 1, and this one's going to go to Quest 2, and then finally our last link will go to Quest 3. Now, to set up the links, what we want to do is, well, first of all, we have to go into the coursework folder. And then once we get into that folder, we want to go into Q1 folder. And then in the Q1 folder, we want to pull up the index.html file. Okay, so what you can easily do is just copy that little line of code, that little relative link there, and you can paste that right in. Oops, I'm going to paste that right there. That there. The only thing you need to do is change the directory that it's looking in. So this one I want to look in the Q2 folder, and then this one in the Q3 folder. Okay, so that sets it up. It's going to say, go look in the coursework folder, look in the Q1 folder, and then pull up index.html. Let's file save this, and now let's check out our structure locally. So I'll close that out. I'm going to open up my index file, and there we go. We got our root folder. We got our links to the various quests. So if I click on Quest 1, it links to Quest 1. Now, if you remember, we set up this link here, but it had the // so it could back up a couple folders and go back to the index. So let's see if it works. Click that, goes right back to our root folder. So it's an easy way to test if we have all our links set up. It's looking pretty dang good. So now we have created a little mini website directory structure. The last step is to put this on the FTP. So let's go and check this out on the FTP. So the last thing that we need to do is we need to get into FileZilla and set up our connection settings and put this into the FTP. Alright, so look how easy this was. We have one folder sitting on our desktop. I can get rid of this zip folder altogether. And then I can go in here and I just need to put this on the FTP. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to start in FileZilla. So this is going to be the time that I'm going to show you how FileZilla works from start to finish as though I had never even logged in before. I get FileZilla on my computer, open it up. Alright, so we have a few things on our desktop. We have a local side here. We have the server side. You'll notice is not connected to the server. We have these buttons that are at the top that allow you to just turn on various aspects of this FTP. Typically, I tell you to have them all turned off so that you have just the local side and the server side. Now, if you click on this icon right here, these two little computer guys, it's going to open up this interface. Now, I already have a few sites set up, but we're going to set up a new one. So as long as you're in My Sites, you can click on New Site. What we're going to do is I'm going to set up the Gamify EDU for aZombie. So I'll put aZombie right in there, and then I'm setting up this site. And then on the right-hand side, we have to set in some of the settings. So first thing it's asking for is the host. Now go to your email files. Your information for connecting to both of your hosts are in your email. We have two of them now. You have Gamify EDU, which I prefer for you to use so I can get into those directories, help you troubleshoot and grade things. You also have the one provided by the university that you can use for practice. You only have about 100 megabytes on that one, so you can't put too much on there, but you have that other one as an ability to test things out. You have two of those. Okay, so here we are for Gamify EDU. Put gamifyedu.org in the host. We use the protocol of FTP file transfer protocol. We're also going to use the encryption method of use plain FTP. Now the login type, I always suggest to do ask for password. It's going to be a little bit more secure just in case anybody got into the computer, they couldn't get to your FTP and mess things up for your website. So I'm going to go ahead and put the aZombie login name. You won't be able to do anything for the password here because at this stage it's going to prompt you when you hit the connect button. So then we can just hit the connect button and then we're going to get our prompt. and then I'll go ahead and be able to put that password right in there, and right when I hit OK, it's going to connect to the server. So right before I hit OK, I'm going to hit cancel actually because I wanted to turn on a particular viewpoint to show you something. Now I showed you that these little buttons right here can turn on and off visibility of different windows in here. Well, this first one shows your connection status. So I'm going to go back, turn that one on, which I have, click on this, click the particular aZombie one that we already set up, and hit connect. Okay, so watch what happens in this window right when I type in my password, and then I click OK. You're going to see it running through a whole bunch of scripts. What it's saying is connecting to the particular server, it let me know that my directory listing was successful. So this is an awesome way to see that you're connecting all the way to the server. So now that I'm done with it, I can turn it off and I can start focusing on getting files into that directory. Now, one other helpful button that you can turn on is this fourth one, and what it allows you to do, it shows queued files, failed transfers, and successful transfers. Now, there's two ways to get the files into your root directory. Now, the very first way that you can do it is you can go into this root folder. Now, notice right now, I'm not going to be dragging this whole root folder in there. That's not what we want to do. This root folder is just for the local side. All I want is everything inside this root folder to go in this particular directory. So one way to go about that is to select everything and just drag it right into that root folder. And it's going to pull everything in there and drag it in there. Now I've been noticing on a few computers that the drag method might not work. So I'm going to show you the other method so you can see how this is going to go down. So I am going to go ahead and delete these out, select them all, and delete them out from that server. And then they're going to be gone so we can take a look at it. Now, before we even add these other files in, let's just go take a look at what this looks like on the actual live web. So if I go to gamifyedu.org/232, and then I also want to put in that aZombie, or in your case, your last name, so I'll put aZombie, and then I hit enter, it should give me the ripped page. That's because there's nothing in that particular directory. I know I need to get that index file set up in there. All right, so I'll keep that opened, and let's get it so that on this local side, we can see these files. So the way we do that, if you're on your own computer, is there's a few ways. On a PC, it's documents and settings. On this particular one, it's users. You're going to find the particular user that you want to look for, and then you get to the desktop. So I have this root folder sitting on the desktop here. I'm going to close this out for now. So there it is sitting there. Here it is in the FileZilla client program. So it's looking at it, it sees it. I open up that folder and I see all the files that I want to transfer. Okay, so what I can do now is I can select all those files. I can right click and hit upload, and it's going to shoot them over into that server directory, that hosting area. You'll notice that down here it's queued those files. Everything's been transferred. Everything's been successful. I have no failed transfers. I am done with the FileZilla FTP. Now, typically how you use this in the normal workflow is once you've created a website, you're only going to be tweaking certain files. So let's say you did a little tweak in your index file. Well, you just open up your FTP, double-click that index file. It's going to queue it up to go into the FTP server side, that hosting side, and overwrite that file that's on that end so that your new updates will take effect. Well, it wants to warn you. It's going to say, hey, we're overwriting something on the server. Is that okay? If it's not, cancel out. If you're ready to go, you know that you made some updates, you're okay, you just hit okay, and now your live site is going to have its new updates. Okay, we're all set up there. I'm going to close out of this particular FTP. I know we're set up. I have this root folder. I can go ahead and file that away somewhere that's safe because I'm already done working with that. I'm now hosting on the FTP. I don't want my desktop clean for the next project that I'm going to work on. I'm going to go ahead and trash that. Now let's go back to our particular site. We have our URL that we had typed in there. Now let's refresh, and it should bring up our root folder that we now hosted in that FTP. By clicking on Quest 1, it should take us to the Quest 1, and it'll link back. Alright, so that's going to conclude this one on Quest 4 Objective. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, call me, text me, whatever you need to do to figure out what's going on. Reference this video a few times. It's great work right here. This is how you do this. We're going to need to know these skills as we go on, and I was able to give you that nice little template that you can use in your emails. So go look for that, save that, be ready to use it as we go here along.